The great doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a hiss that echoed through the massive hall. Admiral Taesung walked forward, his boots clicking against the polished floor. Above him, holographic displays showed star maps and fleet positions. Around the circular chamber, representatives from 47 species watched him approach the center platform. Counselor Vixstar stood from his perch, his feathered crest rising in agitation. His species, the Riloth, had overseen galactic military law for 3,000 years. Today, his voice carried both authority and disgust. Admiral Taesung of the Human Defense Fleet, you stand accused of willful negligence resulting in the deaths of 2,000 soldiers under your command. How do you plead? Taesung stopped at the center of the platform. The light from above made his gray uniform look almost white. His face showed no emotion. He had prepared for this moment. I plead not guilty, Counselor. My soldiers are not dead. A ripple of shocked murmurs spread through the chamber. High Marshal Kumdor, whose insectoid body gleamed under the lights, clicked his mandibles in disbelief. Impossible. You deployed a full regiment to Keres 9 23 days ago. Keres 9 is classified as a Doomworld. No military force in recorded history has survived there longer than 6 hours. Taesung looked up at the Marshal. Then history has changed. Vixstar activated a holographic display. The image of a planet appeared, rotating slowly. Its surface swirled with green and black clouds. Red lightning crackled through the atmosphere. Even through the hologram, the planet looked hostile. Keres 9, Vixstar announced. The average surface temperature varies between -40 and +60 degrees Celsius within the same day. Gravity fluctuates randomly between 0.8 and 1.4 standard. Atmospheric composition includes sulfuric compounds that corrode most metals within hours. The ecosystem consists of apex predators with pack intelligence and carnivorous plant networks that communicate through chemical signals. Another display activated, showing military records. Vixstar continued, his voice growing harder. 60 years ago, the Clethrin Dominion sent 500 of their finest warriors to establish a forward base on Keres 9. They lasted 4 hours. We recovered 37 bodies. The rest were consumed by the planet. A third display appeared. 20 years ago, the Orcian Empire deployed 800 elite troops with the most advanced environmental suits available. They lasted 5 hours and 12 minutes before requesting emergency evacuation. Only 200 survived extraction. Quender leaned forward. And you, Admiral, sent 2,000 human soldiers there with standard combat gear. Even by human standards of recklessness, this crosses into criminal insanity. Taesung remained calm. Behind him, the doors opened again. Captain Minji entered, carrying a data cylinder. She walked with the easy confidence of someone who had seen combat and survived. Her uniform bore the insignia of Special Operations Command. Permission to present evidence, Counselor? Taesung asked. Vixstar's feathers ruffled with irritation. What evidence could possibly justify this action? The mission recordings. Complete footage from all deployed units. The chamber fell silent. Council members exchanged glances. They had expected excuses, perhaps claims of following orders or emergency circumstances. They had not expected the human to offer proof. Vixstar gestured to the central holographic array. Very well. Show us how your soldiers died. Captain Minji inserted the data cylinder. The lights in the chamber dimmed. The holographic display expanded, filling the air above the council floor. Multiple video feeds appeared, each showing a different perspective. The footage began with orbital descent. Drop pods fell through Keres 9's violent atmosphere like meteors. Inside one pod, a helmet camera showed the soldiers' view. The pod shook and rattled. Red warning lights flashed. Then impact. The pod door blew open. Green mist rushed in. The soldier stepped out onto alien soil, weapon ready. Around him, other pods landed in sequence. The humans moved quickly, forming defensive positions. Within seconds, the first challenge appeared. The sky darkened as clouds rolled in with unnatural speed. Rain began to fall. Where it struck metal equipment, smoke rose. Acid rain. Here, Quender said, pointing at the display. This is where they should have sought shelter. This is where previous forces tried to establish bunkers. But the humans did not build bunkers. Instead, they deployed large sheets of treated fabric, angling them to collect the acidic rainfall into containers. One soldier's camera showed him speaking into a radio. Sergeant Hyan Wu to all units. Acid rain confirmed. pH level 4.2. Strong enough to dissolve the target obstacles. Recommend collection and storage for demolition use. Vicstar stared at the display. They are weaponizing the environment? Keep watching, Taisung said quietly. The footage continued. The human soldiers did not stay in one place. They moved in small groups, spreading across the terrain. When gravity suddenly increased, dropping 2 soldiers to their knees, the others helped them adjust equipment settings. Their gear compensated for the change. A squad encountered one of Karas 9's apex predators. The creature stood 4 meters tall, covered in crystalline plates that reflected light like broken glass. Its 6 eyes tracked the humans with clear intelligence. The squad did not fire. Instead, they retreated slowly, marking their path. The creature followed. The squad leader's voice came through clearly. Sergeant Hyan Wu to observation team. Predator type Alpha confirmed. Territorial behavior. Leading it to grid section 47 where we detected another Alpha earlier. Recommend all units avoid that sector for the next hour. The council watched as the humans deliberately led one monster toward another. When the 2 predators detected each other, they forgot about the humans entirely. The territorial battle was brief and vicious. While the creatures fought, the human squad slipped past and continued their mission. They are not fighting the planet, Captain Minji said from beside the Admiral. They are learning from it. Counselor Vicstar turned to face Taesung directly. What was worth this risk? What objective justified deploying troops to a Doomworld? That, Taesung replied, is what the rest of the footage will show you. The holographic displays shifted, showing deeper penetration into Karas 9's hostile terrain. The council members settled into their seats, unable to look away. The trial had just begun. The holographic footage jumped forward in time. Text appeared in the corner of the display. Day 1, Hour 7. By this point, the Arxian Empire's elite troops had already been evacuating. The Clethrin warriors had been dead for 3 hours. The human soldiers were still. Advancing. Colonel Day 1 appeared on the main display, standing in what looked like a jungle clearing. Behind him, massive trees rose into the mist. Their bark moved slowly, breathing. Carnivorous plants, the council members realized. All company commanders, this is Colonel Day 1. Protocol Nomad is in full effect. No unit stays in one position longer than 2 hours. We adapt and move. The planet wants to kill stationary targets. We will not give it stationary targets. The footage split into multiple feeds. Each showed a different squad moving through Karas 9's terrain. The council watched in growing fascination as the humans encountered obstacle after obstacle. One squad found their path blocked by a field of plants with translucent pods. Inside each pod, acidic fluid swirled. Corporal Jizu, whose helmet camera provided the feed, knelt beside one of the plants. She took samples carefully, running field tests on a portable scanner. Interesting, her voice came through clearly. These plants release their acid when vibration sensors in their roots detect footsteps. but they also emit a chemical warning to other plants in the network. Another soldier asked, "Can we avoid them?" "Better, we can use them." Jisoo stood up, pointing at a path through the field. "These 3 plants are already empty. They released their acid recently. The network will not trigger again for approximately 40 minutes. We cross here, single file, stepping only where I step." The squad crossed safely. But Jisoo was not finished. She collected samples of the warning chemical and stored them in sealed containers. This pheromone could be useful for creating safe zones or marking paths. Counselor Vic Starr leaned toward High Marshal Quendor. "Their medic is conducting research while on a combat mission. All human soldiers receive cross-training," Captain Minji explained from below. Corporal Jisoo is a combat medic, but she also has training in xenobiology. Every soldier has secondary specializations. The footage shifted to another squad. Sergeant Hyan Woo's team had encountered a different problem. The ground ahead of them rippled and moved. Sinkholes, the council realized. The terrain itself was unstable. Instead of turning back, Hyan Woo ordered his squad to observe and document. They spent 30 minutes watching the ground, noting patterns. One soldier threw rocks of different weights ahead, watching where they sank and where they held. "I see it," Hyan Woo finally said. "The stable ground has different vegetation. Those small blue plants with the spiral leaves. They only grow where the soil is solid enough to support their root systems." The squad marked a safe path using the plants as guides, but they also transmitted this information to every other unit. Within minutes, all human forces on Ceres 9 knew how to identify stable ground. The council watched day turn to night on the alien world. Night on Ceres 9 was even more dangerous. The apex predators hunted primarily in darkness. Previous military forces had been slaughtered during their first night. The humans did not hide. They adapted. Private Seok's helmet camera showed his squad's preparation. They gathered the bioluminescent moss that grew on tree trunks. Some they used for light, but most they spread in patterns away from their position, creating false signatures that drew predators away from their actual location. When a pack of predators did find them, the humans were ready. They had studied the creatures during the day. They knew the predators communicated through high-frequency sounds. One soldier activated a device that emitted jamming signals. The pack's coordination fell apart. Confused and unable to communicate, the predators withdrew. "They did not kill the predators," Quendor observed. "They had clear shots." "Ammunition conservation," Admiral Taesoon replied. "Also, dead predators attract scavengers. Living predators that learn humans are not easy prey serve as better deterrents." The footage continued through the second day. The humans encountered gravity fluctuations in a rocky canyon. Instead of struggling against the changes, they used them. When gravity decreased, they moved heavy equipment quickly. When it increased, they rested and performed maintenance. Private Yuna, the communication specialist, appeared in several feeds. She was establishing relay points, creating a network that allowed all human units to share information constantly. When one squad discovered that a certain type of rock could be burned for heat without producing toxic smoke, every squad knew within 5 minutes. On the third day, the humans encountered what the Clethrin had called death zones, areas where multiple environmental hazards overlapped. Acid rain, unstable ground, predator territory, and toxic plants all in the same region. The Clethrin had tried to fight through with brute force. They had failed. The humans went around, but not before sending drones to map the death zones completely. The mapping data was added to their growing database of Ceres 9's ecosystem. Corporal Jisoo appeared again, this time near a cluster of the carnivorous plants. She had discovered something remarkable. The plants released different chemicals depending on what they were digesting. By analyzing these chemicals, she could determine what predators were nearby. "We can use these plants as an early warning system," she reported to Colonel Day 1. "If we know how to read them." The colonel approved her proposal. Squads began checking the carnivorous plants regularly, reading them like signposts. By the end of the third day, the humans had moved deeper into Karas 9 than any previous force. They had not lost a single soldier yet. High Marshal Quender stood from his seat. "This is impossible. The casualty rate should be catastrophic." "They have not reached the burning hollows yet," Vixtar noted, studying the map display. "The mission objective lies in the planet's most hostile region." Captain Minji smiled slightly. "Keep watching, Counselor." The holographic display showed sunset on the third day. Colonel Day 1 stood on a ridge, looking toward a distant valley where volcanic vents glowed red against the darkening sky. "The burning hollows." His voice came through all channels. "All units, tomorrow we enter the target zone. Check your thermal gear and breathing equipment. The real challenge begins now." Behind him, 2,000 human soldiers prepared for what should have been impossible. The council chamber remained absolutely silent. The holographic footage shifted to day 4. The display showed the entrance to the burning hollows, a vast valley where the ground itself glowed red with heat. Volcanic vents released superheated gas in irregular patterns. The air shimmered like water. Lieutenant Borum led the strike team designated for the primary objective. Her helmet camera showed 12 soldiers in specialized thermal suits. They looked bulky, but moved with practiced efficiency. Strike Team 1 to Colonel Day 1. "We are entering the hollows. Temperature reading is 58 degrees Celsius and rising." The colonel's response came through clearly. "Acknowledged, Lieutenant. Remember, the crash ship is 7 kilometers into the valley. Self-destruct timer shows 6 days remaining. Take your time and stay alive." Counselor Vixtar paused the footage. "A crash ship? You sent 2,000 soldiers to a Doomworld for salvage?" Admiral Taesoon gestured for Captain Minji to explain. She stepped forward, activating a secondary display. It showed a sleek vessel, clearly not human design. "This is a Kavix intelligence ship. It crashed on Karas 9 during a reconnaissance mission 18 days before our operation. The ship contains strategic data on enemy fleet movements that could save billions of lives across multiple systems. Why not simply destroy it from orbit?" Quender demanded. "The data is encrypted and stored in a quantum core. Destroying it destroys the information. The core must be retrieved intact before the ship's self-destruct activates." Vixtar's feathers ruffled. "You risked 2,000 lives for data?" "We risked them to save billions," Taesoon replied coldly. "And as you will see, the risk was calculated." The footage resumed. Lieutenant Borum's team moved into the burning hollows slowly. The heat was intense even through their suits. Volcanic vents erupted randomly, shooting columns of superheated gas into the air. Master Sergeant Sungho walked beside Borum. His suit had extra equipment strapped to it. "Demolition tools," the council realized. He spoke with casual humor despite the deadly environment. "You know, Lieutenant, when I joined the service, they promised me I would see exotic places. They did not mention those places would try to cook me alive." "Stay focused, Sungho. Mark the vent patterns." The team spread out, each soldier observing and recording. They threw heat sensors ahead, mapping which areas were safe and which would erupt. After an hour of observation, they identified a pattern. The vents followed geological faults. By reading the ground structure, they could predict eruptions. Private Yuna appeared in the footage, setting up a relay station at the valley's entrance. Her communications network was expanding, reaching even into the hollows. Every discovery made by the strike team transmitted to all other units immediately. On day 5, the humans encountered a new challenge. The air in certain areas of the hollows was toxic, containing volcanic gases that corroded their breathing filters. Standard filters lasted only 20 minutes. The humans did not retreat. Instead, Master Sergeant Sunho examined the problem practically. He dismantled the filter and studied its composition. Then he gathered volcanic rock samples and tested them. "This rock," he announced, holding up a piece of porous stone, "filters the toxic compounds naturally. The volcanic system forces gas through it, cleaning the air before it reaches the surface in certain zones." Within hours, the humans had modified their breathing equipment using the volcanic rock. Their filters now lasted indefinitely, as long as they replaced the rock filters every few hours. The rock was everywhere. "They are using the planet's own filtration system," Vixtar observed. "Remarkable." The footage showed the strike team getting closer to the crashed ship. But the burning hollows had more dangers. Predators lived here too, species adapted to extreme heat. They were smaller than the jungle predators, but faster and more aggressive. Lieutenant Borum's team encountered a pack of 6. The creatures looked like molten glass given shape, their bodies radiating heat. They moved across the superheated ground without difficulty. The humans could not outrun them in their thermal suits, so they did not try. Sunho activated a device he had been building, using a volcanic vent as a power source. The device emitted a high-frequency pulse that disrupted the predators' heat-sensing organs. Blinded and confused, the predators retreated. Sunho transmitted the device specifications to all units. Within a day, every squad had built their own predator deterrent using volcanic energy. On day 6, a disaster nearly struck. Part of Lieutenant Borum's team triggered a ground collapse. 3 soldiers fell into a cavern beneath the surface. The cavern was filled with superheated water and toxic gases. The council members leaned forward. Finally, they thought casualties, but the footage showed the remaining soldiers immediately adapting. They used their rappelling equipment to descend into the cavern carefully. The water was too hot to touch, but they constructed a bridge using debris and their own equipment. They reached their fallen comrades. All 3 soldiers were injured, but alive. One had broken his leg. Another had damaged her breathing equipment. The third had severe burns on his arm. They did not call for evacuation. Instead, they called for Corporal Jisoo. The medic arrived within 2 hours, having pushed through the hollows at dangerous speed. She treated the injuries with battlefield medicine, using supplies and techniques designed for extreme environments. The soldier with burns received synthetic skin grafts. The one with the broken leg received a temporary support brace manufactured from lightweight alloys. "Can you continue?" Lieutenant Borum asked them. All 3 soldiers confirmed they could. The mission proceeded. High Marshal Quender made a sound of disbelief. "They should have evacuated the wounded. Evacuation from inside the burning hollows is more dangerous than continuing forward," Captain Minji explained. "The exit is behind them. The objective is ahead." Going forward was safer. On day 7, the strike team reached the crashed ship. It lay in a crater, half buried in volcanic ash. Its hull was scorched but intact. The self-destruct timer showed 2 days remaining. Lieutenant Borum and Master Sergeant Sunho approached the vessel carefully. Its systems were still active, attempting to deny access. Sunho studied the locking mechanisms while Borum contacted Colonel Day 1. "Strike Team 1 to Colonel. We have reached the objective. Beginning extraction of the quantum core. Acknowledged. All units maintain perimeter." The lieutenant has 2 days to complete extraction, but the footage showed it took only 8 hours. Sunho bypassed the ship's security using techniques that made the council members uncomfortable. Human electronic warfare capabilities were clearly more advanced than most species realized. The quantum core, a sphere of crystalline material the size of a human head, was extracted carefully. It contained the strategic data that had made this entire mission necessary. Objective secured, Borum reported. Requesting extraction. Admiral Taesung paused the footage there. He turned to face the council directly. The mission was successful. The data we retrieved revealed an enemy fleet positioning that allowed us to prevent an attack on 3 colonies. Approximately 2.4 billion lives were saved. At what cost? Vicstar demanded. That, Taesung said quietly, is what Part 4 will show you. The council chamber felt very cold despite the climate controls. The footage resumed with a new timestamp. Day 8. The holographic display showed multiple feeds from across Keres 9. Colonel Day 1 stood at the command position, coordinating the extraction of all units now that the primary objective was complete. All companies begin withdrawal to extraction zones. Move with the same caution you used coming in. The planet is just as dangerous on the way out. But the council's attention was drawn to a different feed. This one showed the interior of a medical frigate orbiting above Keres 9. Dr. Yoonji, the chief medical officer, moved between beds filled with wounded soldiers. So there were casualties, Counselor Vicstar said. Yes, Admiral Taesung replied. War always has costs. The question is whether those costs were acceptable. The footage showed Dr. Yoonji working on a soldier whose arm had been severely damaged by acid exposure. The soldier, identified as Private Junho, had been injured on day 3 when his squad encountered an unexpected pocket of concentrated acidic gas. The doctor's hands moved with practiced skill, but she was also speaking into a recorder. Patient shows tissue damage consistent with sulfuric acid exposure. Treatment Protocol 7 appears effective. Adding this data to the medical database. Future missions should include additional neutralizing agents in standard medical kits. Captain Minji spoke from beside the Admiral. Every injury taught us something. Every casualty was analyzed not just to treat the wounded, but to prevent future injuries. The footage shifted to show the moment Private Junho was injured. His squad had been moving through a canyon when the ground beneath him collapsed. He fell into a hidden chamber filled with acidic gas. His armor protected his body, but his arm had been exposed for 7 seconds before his squad pulled him out. 7 seconds should have meant death. The gas should have dissolved flesh to bone, but the footage showed his squad's immediate response. They carried neutralizing foam specifically because Corporal Jisoo had discovered 3 days earlier that volcanic ash mixed with water created an effective acid neutralizer. They covered Junho's arm in the foam within seconds. Then they called for medical evacuation, but not to orbit. Another squad nearby had a medic who reached them in 15 minutes. The medic stabilized Junho's arm, preventing further damage. Only then was Junho taken to the frigate, where Dr. Yoonji could perform more advanced treatment. The injury was serious, the doctor's voice narrated over the footage. But because of immediate proper treatment, I was able to save the arm. Private Junho will make full recovery and can return to duty in 6 weeks. The display showed Junho's face. He was conscious, speaking to Dr. Yoonji. Doctor, did my squad get the mission data I was carrying? Yes, Private. Your samples of the volcanic rock filters reached the strike team. They used your discovery. Junho smiled despite his pain. Good, then it was worth it. I, Marshal Quender, studied the display. This soldier nearly lost his arm, and he considers it acceptable because his data was useful. Humans understand sacrifice, Admiral Taesung said. But we also understand efficiency. Why waste a sacrifice? Why not learn from it? The footage continued, showing other injuries. A soldier whose leg had been crushed in the cavern collapsed. Another who suffered severe burns. A third who contracted a bacterial infection from contaminated water. Each case was treated. Each case was documented. Each case added to humanity's growing knowledge of how to survive on Keres 9. The display split to show Colonel Day 1 receiving casualty reports. His face showed concern but not panic. He reviewed each report carefully, then transmitted updated safety protocols to all units. All squads, be advised. New protocol for canyon traversal. Use ground-penetrating sonar to detect hidden chambers. Maintain minimum 3-meter spacing to prevent multiple casualties in case of collapse. The footage jumped to day 9. The withdrawal was proceeding, but not quickly. The humans were still studying, still learning. Squads marked safe paths for future use. They cataloged predator territories. They created detailed maps of resource locations. One squad encountered a new type of carnivorous plant they had not seen before. Instead of rushing past, they spent an hour studying it. They discovered it produced a sap that could seal wounds and prevent infection. This could revolutionize field medicine. Corporal Jisoo reported to Colonel Day 1. I am collecting samples for testing. Approved. Take what you need. Counselor Vicstar stood from his seat. They are conducting research during a combat withdrawal? They are maximizing the value of the mission, Captain Minji corrected. Why experience something once and learn only one lesson? Why not learn everything possible? The footage showed the final day of extraction. Dropships descended through Keres 9's atmosphere to retrieve the soldiers. The council watched the humans board in organized groups, carrying their wounded and their equipment, but they also carried samples. Rock specimens, plant samples, even a captured small predator in a containment unit. Everything that could teach them more about Keres 9. The last soldier to board was Colonel Day 1. Before entering the dropship, he turned to look back at the planet. His voice was quiet but clear. We will be back. The dropships ascended, leaving Keres 9 behind. The footage showed them docking with the fleet in orbit. Medical teams waited to receive the wounded. Debriefing teams prepared to interview every soldier. Dr. Eunji appeared again, presenting her final casualty report to Admiral Tae-sung. Total casualties, 153 soldiers wounded. 72 seriously enough to require extended medical care. 13 with injuries that will require months of recovery. She paused, and the council members waited for the death toll. 0 fatalities, Admiral. We did not lose a single soldier. The council chamber erupted in shocked voices. Councilor Vicstar's feathers stood completely erect. Impossible. No force survives a Doomworld without deaths. Admiral Tae-sung let the footage continue. It showed the soldiers after their return. Some were in medical beds, recovering from injuries. Others were in debriefing rooms, sharing their experiences. All of them were alive. Private Junho appeared again, his arm in a regeneration cast. He was speaking to other soldiers, describing his fall into the acid chamber. He was laughing. I learned something important, he told them. Always check the ground. And always carry neutralizing foam. The other soldiers listened carefully, adding his lesson to their own knowledge. This is madness, Quender said. They treated Doomworld like a training exercise. Admiral Tae-sung finally smiled. Marshal, you have not yet seen the truly frightening part. He nodded to Captain Minji. Show them the rest. The captain activated a new file. The footage jumped forward to 30 days after the initial mission. The council members stared as new images filled the display. Their horror was only beginning. The new footage showed Keres 9 again, but something was different. The timestamp read 30 days post-mission. Dropships were descending through the atmosphere, but these were larger vessels carrying more equipment. Counselor Vicstar gripped the arms of his seat. You went back? We never left, Admiral Tae-sung replied. The footage showed 200 human soldiers disembarking. But unlike the first mission, These soldiers were not just carrying weapons. They brought construction materials, scientific equipment, and habitat modules. Colonel Day 1 appeared, now wearing less armor and more practical field gear. He stood at what looked like a command center, a temporary structure erected on the same ridge where he had stood before. "Welcome to Firebase Prometheus," he announced to the arriving soldiers. "Your rotation begins today." The holographic display expanded, showing an aerial view of the firebase. It was not large, but it was permanent. Solar panels absorbed Keras 9's fierce sunlight. Water recyclers processed the acid rain into usable resources. Defensive barriers used the carnivorous plants themselves, creating a living perimeter. Captain Minji stepped forward to explain. The Keras 9 mission was not just about retrieving the quantum core. That was the tactical objective. The strategic objective was much larger. She activated additional displays showing documents and planning materials. For 3 years, Human Defense Command has been developing a new military division, the Deep Environment Combat Division. Soldiers trained to operate in environments other species consider uninhabitable. Doomworlds, High Marshal Quender said slowly. Exactly. But you cannot train for Doomworlds in simulation. You cannot prepare for the reality of hostile environments without experiencing them. So we needed a testing ground. The footage showed human soldiers moving through Keras 9's jungle with casual confidence. They wore lighter gear than before. They moved faster. They knew the terrain. One squad approached a group of apex predators. The massive creatures watched them but did not attack. The squad leader tossed something to the nearest predator. "Meat," the council realized. The predator took it and moved away. Domestication? Vicstar sounded horrified. Acclimation, Captain Minji corrected. The predators have learned that humans are not easy prey and sometimes provide food. They leave us alone now. We leave them alone. Coexistence. The footage showed more impossibilities. A human soldier walking through the carnivorous plant field. The plants not reacting. Another squad using volcanic vents as power sources for their equipment. A medic treating a minor injury using the plant sap that Corporal Jisoo had discovered. In 30 days, the soldiers stationed on Keras 9 have transformed a section of the planet into a training facility, Minji continued. New recruits rotate through for 3-month tours. They learn to survive in extreme environments. They learn to adapt. They learn to turn hostile conditions into tactical advantages. The display showed a training exercise. New soldiers were being led through the burning hollows by veterans of the first mission. Private Seok, who had been a junior soldier on the initial deployment, was now teaching others about volcanic vent patterns. "This is madness," Quender repeated. "You are deliberately exposing your soldiers to a Doomworld." "Yes," Admiral Taesung agreed. "And they volunteer for it. We have a waiting list of soldiers requesting Keras 9 rotation." New footage appeared. This showed an interview with Private Junho, the soldier who had been injured by acid. His arm was fully healed now. "Would you return to Keras 9? An interviewer asked him. "Absolutely. I learned more in 9 days on that planet than in 2 years of standard training. It makes you better, sharper, more adaptable. When you can survive Keras 9, regular combat zones seem easy." The council members watched as more testimonials played. Soldier after soldier expressing the same sentiment. Keras 9 was not a nightmare to them. It was opportunity. Councillor Vicstar finally found his voice. "But why? Why deliberately subject your people to this?" Admiral Taesung walked to the center of the platform. His voice carried through the silent chamber. "Because in this galaxy, there are 47 classified Doomworlds. Planets so hostile that they serve as natural barriers. Enemies hide behind them. Criminals establish bases on them. They are considered impossible to assault, impossible to occupy. He paused, letting that sink in. Until now. In 5 years, Human Defense Command will have permanent training rotations on all 47 Doomworlds. We will master every one. We will turn the galaxy's most dangerous planets into our training grounds. The holographic display changed, showing plans for other facilities. Names scrolled past: Infernus 6, Cascade Prime, Shatterpoint. Each one a Doomworld. Each one targeted for human occupation. When an enemy retreats to a place you consider certain death, Taesung continued, they will find us already there, waiting for them. When a criminal thinks they are safe behind a planetary death trap, we will come through it as easily as walking through a door. I, Marshal Quender, stood slowly. You are weaponizing adaptation itself. We are doing what humans have always done, Marshal. We are learning. We are evolving. Not biologically, but tactically. Every environment teaches us. Every challenge makes us stronger. The footage showed the final scene. Colonel Day-1 stood on the ridge at Firebase Prometheus, watching a new group of recruits arrive. Behind him, Kara's 9's deadly jungle stretched to the horizon. Above, storm clouds gathered. Acid rain was coming. Day-1 spoke to the nervous recruits with a slight smile. I know what you have heard about this place. That it is hell. That it will try to kill you every minute of every day. He gestured at the landscape. They are right. They are right. But let me tell you a secret. Hell is an excellent teacher. In 3 months, you will leave here better than you arrived. You will know things other soldiers cannot imagine. You will have survived what the galaxy considers impossible. One of the recruits raised a hand. Sir, is it true what they say? That you called this place paradise? Day-1's smile widened. Private, when you understand what this planet offers, when you see past the danger to the opportunity, then yes. This is exactly paradise. The footage ended. The holographic displays faded. The council chamber was silent. Admiral Taesung turned to face Counselor Vicstar directly. You asked me how I plead to the charge of negligence. I plead not guilty because I did not waste my soldiers' lives. I invested them. And the return on that investment is a military division that can operate anywhere, under any conditions. You have created an army that seeks out death itself as a teacher, Vicstar said quietly. No, Counselor. We have created an army that refuses to accept limitations. An army that sees barriers and asks how to overcome them. An army that learns from every challenge. Captain Minji added her own conclusion. In the records of the first mission, 153 soldiers were wounded. 0 died. Those 153 wounds taught us 153 lessons. Those lessons are now preventing injuries in the current rotation. In 6 months, the injury rate has dropped by 40%. In a year, Karis 9 will be safer for humans than some civilized planets are for other species. High Marshal Quender clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. What you describe is terrifying. Not because of its cruelty, but because of its efficiency. You turn every disaster into data. Every death into a lesson. Every hostile world into an asset. That, Admiral Taesung said, is how humans have survived every challenge in our history. We adapt. We learn. We overcome. Now we do it on a galactic scale. The council members looked at each other. They had expected to judge a reckless commander. Instead, they had witnessed a species fundamentally different from their own. Where others saw limits, humans saw lessons. Where others retreated, humans trained. Counselor Vicstar spoke for all of them. This council finds Admiral Taesung not guilty of negligence. The mission to Karis 9 was successful within acceptable parameters. He paused, his feathers settling into a position that suggested deep concern. However, This council must note for the record that humanity's approach to warfare and survival represents a paradigm shift in galactic military doctrine. What you consider training, most species would consider punishment. What you call opportunity, we call suicide. Admiral Taesung nodded. Noted, Counselor. Is there anything else? Yes. Vigstar looked at the darkened display where Kara's 9 had been shown. A question, if I may. What happens when you run out of Doomworlds to master? The Admiral smiled. It was not a comforting expression. Then, Counselor, we start looking for harder challenges. The council chamber fell silent again. In the darkness of space beyond the station, the galaxy suddenly seemed smaller. Humanity had just proven that nowhere was truly beyond reach. The meeting adjourned. The council members departed, each carrying the disturbing knowledge that humans did not see a Doomworld and think impossible. They saw it and thought, not yet. And that made all the difference.